Hello, folks, and welcome back to another episode of the Daily Crypto Byte. Today is Thursday, March 10th, and all of yesterday's gains from that executive order seemingly wiped away overnight. We're trying to find some strength here this morning, but much of that has to do with some historic inflation numbers kind of dampening this market a little bit. Lots to discuss today. Before we get started, CJ, how are you doing today, my friend?
Doing well, and I think the story tells it all with what you just said there, Monty, and the CPI numbers coming in 7.9%, so even higher than last month. Obviously, spooking markets a little bit to start. Bitcoin did begin to sell off a little bit last night, though, and I'm excited to jump into the 4-hour chart and show some where the inflection point occurred and potentially a signal about why. But yeah, overall doing good, Monty. How about you?
Yeah, doing well, CJ. Doing well. Excited to dive into some technicals today because although we do have these fundamental news related events kind of somewhat driving price, we are still kind of retesting some critical levels. I think the technicals can tell us where we may find support, where we may find resistance. So definitely excited to take a look at some charts today. Also, Luna, this thing, I know we talk about it. We've been talking about it a lot this week for good reason. But as soon as Bitcoin kind of started to find support today, buyers stepped into that thing like piranhas, and it's back up already retesting $100. So we talked about yesterday kind of how you want to pay attention to the assets showing resilience. Luna continues to do that, so we'll take a look at that chart. But yeah, excited for to dive into some charts. CJ, I'll pass it back to you to get us started.
Yeah, before we get into price action, just wanted to show there's been some NFT price action quite drastically over the last few weeks. I think Bored Apes were down about 25% this week alone in certain cases. But overall, I think if you just look at like Google Trends, it's a very interesting picture. Reminds me of like just crypto in 2018, 2019, kind of just fading for a while into obscurity and then obviously coming back once like the initial hype phase was washed out. But I think it's important to take notice of when you have such a peak drop off in interest. And this is the search term for NFT or just overall interest over time. So not necessarily just searches, but like browsing history as well, things of that sort. So, Google Trends are things we like to look at from time to time. Not really as a leading indicator, just to kind of explain what is currently going on. But yeah, other than that, yeah, I'm ready to get into price action if you'd like.
Yeah, let's do it. Because although the NFTs are falling back hard, Bitcoin is kind of pressing up against some critical support here. So we could have an interesting day of price action. What are you seeing here as you take a look at the charts?
Yeah, so first let's just go through a brief overview of the daily chart. We are still in the ascending triangle, still putting in higher lows. As long as we just keep putting in higher lows, that's really the most important thing for the bullish trend and bullish perspective here. The fact that we're actually holding this level with such disappointing news or just bad news and a very strong sell-off in the equity market in general, I think is a promising sign. If you've bought this ascending level historically, typically we've gotten at least reaction rallies up into like this blue channel of resistance that we've been facing. The thing, though, is if we lose this level and then it acts as resistance, that's something that could seriously alter the trend and potentially lead to a retest of lower levels, say in like the low 30,000s. That remains to be seen. I still think it's very promising, especially during the fact that we're holding this level. Unless we drop below, I'm still going to retain a bullish bias here because this thing just continues to get sold into very hard. The equity markets continue to get sold in very hard, but Bitcoin has remained rather resilient here. But let's go to the 4-hour chart. I want to show you guys exactly where the reversal had occurred last night. Looking at TD sequential or just DeMark in general, it's been a great indicator. I definitely encourage you guys to watch the 4-hour charts, not only just in Bitcoin, but crypto in general. It's been a very popular time frame, but you can see historically, like a lot of these nines, when going up into resistance, have been or have just failed. Like for instance, just going into low volume, you have several failures at resistance. We had actually some decent volume here which is why this 9 probably didn't sell off as hard. It just kind of went into more of a sideways consolidation before the next leg up. But we haven't had volume like that in terms of buy pressure in quite a while. So, maybe that's why this one was able to actually continue ascending while the others were followed by just rejection. And, we saw that last night when we got our 9 around, 6 to 8 p.m. A few hours back. And that resulted in a sell-off. But I think the interesting thing, and basically what I said when looking at the daily chart, is that we haven't moved this level. This has been a constant ascending support channel, and we've held it very nicely so far today, and are actually bouncing back quite nicely. We have other assets as well, like Luna, that are already getting bid back up to like $98, which is pretty astounding. I also want to show some confluence with the log growth curves. So let me just have one more chart to open. Thank you for your patience. But yeah, we've been talking about this a lot all throughout last week, trying to highlight a potential macro oversold level for Bitcoin being in the overall trend with these log growth curves. If you zoom in, these have been really accurate at calling support and resistance levels throughout the trend's history. And we still are holding support at the bottom channel right here in pretty good confluence with our ascending trend line. But as you can see, these levels up here, clear resistance, clear rejection, clear support. So overall, I really like these log curves, especially as support and resistance levels. They've really held up throughout the trend. So we'll have to see how things continue. But I'm not super pessimistic, even though we are down 6% today. I think that it's very important that we're still holding that level. If we don't, then things will change. But until then, remain cautiously bullish.
That's some really nice confluence there, CJ. So that's always, reassuring. And it does seem like we're kind of trying to form this kind of upward sloping trend channel there, just looking at those log growth curves. But one thing I do want to talk about here before we wrap things up, we'd be remiss not to discuss it, is Luna. We talked about Luna yesterday a little bit during our member webinar. And, although this chart is ridiculous, I think what's most important or perhaps most notable about the price action of Luna is just look at my watch list here and just look at this sea of red. And Luna stands out, positive almost 3% today on the day. And what's really interesting about Luna, and CJ and I were talking about this before the show started a little bit today, is like it does definitely have sort of a relationship with the price action of Bitcoin, where when we see Bitcoin selling off, we don't necessarily go risk on in Luna. But what's so interesting to me is if we look at the hourly chart for Luna, look at the hourly chart for Bitcoin, as soon as this sell pressure, was kind of mitigated and we got our first bullish engulfing candle here, Luna absolutely did not look back. Right as soon as that sell pressure for Bitcoin kind of diminished, we were able to put in the lows and get support at that, down upward sloping trend line that CJ was talking about, maintain those log growth curve levels. Buyers stepped in with tremendous vigor, very, very strong demand here for Luna. So I think that's definitely worth noting. And when you consider the fact that, we're looking at Bitcoin at the bottom of this range, with the possibility of seeing some buyers step in, we've seen, a lot of sell pressure over the last 3 hours here, and looking like we could potentially perhaps see a reversal back into the 40K range. I think that bodes very, very well for Luna because we saw a strong uptick in demand with just a lack of sell pressure for Bitcoin. And as soon as that trend reversed, buyers stepped in like piranhas and drove this thing back up to, the plus $100 levels. So tremendous demand. And that was kind of the theme of our webinar yesterday, CJ, is looking for these assets that are showing resilience even amidst market weakness. And Luna's doing that very, very well. And, I'd recommend not cherry picking for assets that haven't, made a move yet. Take note of the resilience Luna's showing because that is indicative of tremendous demand. So, just, I'm buying that today, especially when you consider the moves that Bitcoin's making here. So,
yeah, and the best way to locate, or one of the quickest ways to locate whether an asset is being resilient among the market, is just measuring it versus its BTC pair. Or say if you have an alt, you can measure it versus an Ethereum pair or even a Luna pair, because it's kind of taking that title now, so to speak, or just gaining that market cap. But like, just look at the Luna BTC chart. It's up only for the entire last month. And so you try to find like other types of altcoins that are up today. Near, for instance, starting to break out, starting to create a little bit of a inverse head and shoulders pattern based on the near BTC pair. So just one also to look at. But like you said, Monty, sometimes the market's just telling you with one asset, it's me, it's me, it's me. And it's like, I see it's you, but let me go into the abyss because I'm already late and pick something that's moved like 2% because I think it's gonna, catch up or whatnot. When in reality, it's counterintuitive, just, but thank you guys all for watching today. I appreciate you tuning in. Don't forget, if you'd like to learn more about Market Rebellion and see Monty and I's trade insights on a daily basis, you can check out the link in the description below at marketrebellion.com/try-crypto. Also, if you enjoyed the content today, please consider liking and subscribing. That helps us quite a bit. But thank you guys all. I hope you have a wonderful day in the world wherever you are. And